Hello and welcome to Unboxed, the podcast that dives deep into the world of custom packaging and innovative brand experiences. In each episode, we'll be exploring the latest trends, innovations, and best practices in the design and packing industry, and then taking a look at how they can help businesses like yours to create memorable and impactful brand experiences. I'm your host, Sam Johnston. Let's get started. So welcome to Unboxed, the show that dives deep into the world of custom packaging and innovative brand experiences. In each of these episodes, we'll be exploring the latest trends, innovations, and best practices in the design and packaging industry, and how they can be helping businesses like yours to create memorable and impactful brand experiences. I'm your host, Sam Johnston, and in this episode, we'll be talking to Jamie Pearson, who is president and founder of the New Holland Group and widely recognized as one of the most influential women in cannabis for over a decade, a huge amount of experience. And we're very excited to have her on the show today. Thank you so much, Jamie, for giving the time to our listeners. We appreciate it.
I'm really happy to be here. Your team's doing great things. And when I got the invitation, I absolutely wanted to say yes, because I have a lot to say about packaging.
That's awesome. Well, hey, our listeners here today, they range from people that are just sort of founding their organization. They've got an amazing concept, a gap in the market. They're going to go after it. And we've also got your long list of clientele and people that are in our network that are listening to this who are further down the line and are trying to forecast ahead and solve problems before they come up and find new sort of inspiration, to move them forward into the next generation of whatever they're doing. So the format of this show, there'll be 5 questions. So if you're listening to this and you want to be able to jump to one of those questions, they'll be chaptered, so you can do that easily. The first one we're going to run through will be what inspired our guests today to get into their industry. How did they get their start in the field? The second one will be how do they think custom packaging within the cannabis industry in particular and wider contributes to creating unique brand experiences? What are maybe some of those most effective strategies that they've seen for achieving that? The third one will be, can they share any success stories or case studies of great brands that have done a transformation of their organization through packaging and brand exercises? The fourth will be, what are some of the challenges? If you are listening, what are some of those roadblocks that you can be getting ahead of to overcome those things ahead of schedule? And the last one, we'll get out the crystal ball and take a look at what's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years and see if we can give some gold here ahead of schedule. So we're going to come right back up to the first question there. What inspired you, Jamie, to get into your industry, into the field that you're in, and how did you get your start?
It's kind of a unique story, I think, because I was a person who didn't use cannabis and I wasn't a big fan of cannabis, but my dad has been a cannabis user my whole life and he's been a grower. And so I was raised in the industry, so to speak. And then my first cousin on my mom's side is DJ Muggs from Cypress Hill.
Oh, wow.
And he's really the guy responsible for bringing me into the industry because the band was getting a lot of offers to endorse people's products early back when, most of the states were still not legal. Colorado went legal, Montana went medical. There was just a few smattering of states. And as cannabis started legalizing, the demand for bands like Cypress Hill, Willie Nelson, Snoop Dogg, who were, quote unquote stoner bands, to kind of come back into favor happened. And the band did not want to put their name on a product. They wanted their own product. They wanted something that they would smoke, that they would be proud of. And Muggs asked me if I would go help the band find a deal with a brand. And I just didn't think I knew anything about cannabis. I didn't know anything about cannabis. But the realization is I knew a lot more than I thought I did, but I really was a novice and I wasn't a smoker. So I embarked on a journey to learn about the industry and find Cypress Hill a company to do a product with. And I chanced upon the company Bang, who is known for their award-winning chocolate bars. And they were also known for their vape products. We had a really big vape line at the time. We struck a deal. We did a deal with Cypress. I have some of the Cypress packaging from that deal here. And the rest is history.
That's fascinating. I mean, I was not expecting that, Jamie. There's a lot of cool stories that we get on this show, but that's one of the coolest that I've heard.
Mhm.
Well, from that unique start in the industry, The next question here is going to be how do you think custom packaging and this sort of extended brand experiences the packaging offers, how do you think that that contributes to creating loyal customer bases? And have you seen any effective strategies for doing that in the market?
Well, I think the packaging experience is critical on so many levels. And part of what attracted me to say yes to your podcast is the concept of unboxing.
Hmm.
We would do products at Bang because after I did the deal with Bang and Cypress Hill, the brand asked me to stay on after our collab was finished, which I did. And I brought Muggs in and he helped me with a lot of the packaging. But we brought in a pro, a woman from Treasury Wine Estates who's really famous for developing the 19 Crimes wine
Oh, wow.
brand.
Yeah.
And her example was putting the 19 crimes that would get you banished to the Australian penal colony. So she's representing an Australian wine and she's saying what makes our wine special or what makes Australia special. And she's trying to convey a story through the packaging. And what she did was um, a augmented reality living wine label. It's called. You could download an app on your phone. You could hold it up to
Yeah.
the bottle, and there were 19 criminals, real criminals, that would come to life and tell you what they did that got them banished to Australia. And then it evolved, and now you got my Martha Stewart on a Chardonnay bottle, and you got Snoop on a bottle, and
Yeah.
this idea of augmented reality and the packaging come to life is one of the success stories because when she was selling Australian wine and it wasn't doing that great, that that 19 Crimes wine brand and that packaging really brought the whole thing to life,
Yeah.
and it was wildly successful.
That's so good. Yeah, I think we had a couple of people on the show that that were more agency led and they work with lots of different brands and they were saying exactly the same type of thing that if you have a product, I fully understand that you believe in this, you put your savings, your investment or your time and energy and love into this product. But unless there's this group of people that this can slot into very easily, and unless you can communicate why you reach out to these people, why you belong to them, and why your brand should matter to them, it's very difficult to tap into a new market and to stand out on shelves, to stand out in digital spaces. You have to find out who are your initial tribe of customers and how can you stand out. And this is a perfect example of doing that. Have you
Well,
seen any other brands that are doing a similar thing?
Well, I think Lowell's is a great example that the Lowell's packaging is so beautiful, premium, cool.
Yeah,
Everybody's like, "Whoa, it's got the magnet." And then you slide it out and it's got, the match strike edge and the matches come in it and they've got the joints that are back and forth and everything about that package is telling you a story and it also aligns with the brand's values. I'm a big Lowell's fan because of their packaging.
yeah,
And that's interesting because um, if I were to tell you what are my favorite joints, by far it's Garden Society. I love Garden Society's joints. I think they hit right, they're rolled right, everything about them's right. But I really like having that Lowell's packaging in my purse
yeah.
because it's got such a wow factor to it.
That's so cool. Well, I know you had a couple of products that you grabbed before we started the episode here.
Mhm.
Is now a good time to bring those out? Maybe just talk about why
Sure.
you think and what the story are behind those.
Sure. I'll just bring out one of the Cypress Hill products. Um, this was the product. I don't think if you could see it on my camera, but I mean, look at the smoke
That's
on
so
that,
cool.
and then we have the
Yeah,
little sparkly leaf, and this is all foil. And we have the CHB, which was Cypress Hill Bang on the
nice.
side. And then when you unbox it, and that's the whole thing, is that the unboxing experience is so special.
Yeah,
So when you unbox it, so you open this, and then what's sitting there is the
nice.
CHV, and you got the leaves on the inside,
Yeah.
and then what comes out
Oh,
is
well,
the skull jar. It's still got the weed in it. I bet that smokes and gets you. And then it's this child-proof push-down twist bucket hat,
that's so
and
great.
it's so great. We did these as collector's items, and then you just look at the box on the inside and it's just sitting in here
Yeah.
in a nice little um, pocket, I would say, a little pillow of cardboard, so that the skull is right in that, the cellophane right here. Every one of those details we thought through.
Yeah.
Having the smoke on the side, having this window, having this tamper resistant thing, all of that. The unboxing of the product, you want everybody to be like, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa. Then you're happy you bought it.
Yeah. And I think even,
And we sold out of these. They were people wanted, they just wanted the jar. They wanted this box. The weed inside of it was basically irrelevant, but it wasn't, because we did a deal with Ember Valley. Be Real smoked all the weed. He picked this weed. It was like, I'm not going to put my name on a product unless I know the weed is fire. And
yeah,
so then they had the ultimate wow when they had that nose experience and then smoked that product. So everything about that product was premium, and it was true to the band's ethos. And you do tell your story through the unboxing experience. And Muggs is really the one that taught me that. He's like, look, packaging can be very expensive. I'm sure that Lowell's box is not cheap.
hmm,
But if you want to build brand loyalty, or you want to have a wildly successful product, you can't have, a Cadillac product in a Kia box. Like, you just can't do
100%.
that.
And
Hmm.
that's the difference between a sort of commodity product that has some packaging that gets put into the trash immediately and is kind of a hindrance, just a blocker to getting to the outcome of the product, versus a collector piece that becomes a legend in the industry. And that
Yeah.
story and the legend that's built around that package, there's me and all of the Merchant Boxes team, we've got our little collectors sets and stuff that we've collated over the years. And I know that Rick and Mickey and those guys are working on some of the original Star Wars box set material stuff and some of those really cool brands. And the packaging still holds up. It's selling for more than the product is back then. It's incredible stuff.
Right.
But you mentioned in there, there is a challenge to this. Number one, just finding out who are you, what's your brand, and what's important to your consumer. That's going to make you stand out and make this a legendary collector piece. But then also there is the cost metrics. To how do we make this still profitable? Is there enough margin? Are people willing to pay for that experience? Is that something that my ideal customer profile has the budget and tolerance for? And those are some challenges that people have to come through. And one of our next questions here is, in your experience within the industry, what are some of those challenges or roadblocks that businesses are going to face as they come to packaging and distributing their product to their customer?
There's a number of them, and I would say that cannabis has a few extras thrown in, because, it wouldn't be cannabis if we didn't have extra problems. But I think one of them, just I think that everybody's dealing with right now, is environmental sustainability. Um, so at Bang, we made sure when I was running the company that we were using recyclable material, soy ink, things that were sustainable, because there were so many regulations, challenge number two, about what had to be done. Now, in our case, I wasn't opposed to the fact that we had to have child-proof packaging, because I understand we were making chocolate, and we didn't want kids to get into our products. So I
Yeah.
understood the child-proof packaging, but there are some products that make no sense. We don't make cigarettes. We don't make the cigarette companies sell those products in child-proof packaging. The minute that pack of cigarettes is in mommy's purse, that kid can get into it and open it, and they can get into the carton and open it. The thought I had is, if you're selling a pack of joints, the whole childproof thing, it's like the kid's not going to eat it, and if they're 5 years old, they're not going to smoke it.
Yeah.
You got to let the adults be adults. So there's some childproof stuff that is makes sense, and there's some that isn't. So, regulation would be a second issue.
Yeah.
Um, what I found with Bang was manufacturing ease and retail ease. You had to consider those things. So I'll give you an example. Like, we wanted the store to be able to just pull the bar out of the box, and then
Yeah.
here was our bar. And then we had this unboxing experience, right? So we had a die cut right here
Nice.
that showed the childproof packaging on the inside. And that was the thought process here. Is in some of our dispensaries, they're very medical. And in some of our dispensaries, they're recreational.
Yeah.
So this being white was about really being able to have these bars in a medical dispensary and not stand out, but at the same time, I'll unbox this for the audience. When you unbox, we wanted the unboxing. So it said B and then it says bite me, which for a chocolate bar
Nice.
was pretty cool. Now was our
So good.
Belushi. We did a deal with the Blues Brothers, and this was our Blues Brothers event, and this was our white toast
That's great.
bar. Right? And so now here's your child packaging. This can go in the garbage. This is recyclable and made with recyclable materials. So we were trying to be at every juncture aware of the consumer experience. Um, and that was the end result. But we also had to make it easy for our manufacturer. So things like auto bottom boxes, where they're not sitting there having to make the box, tape it
Yep.
together or stick it together or somehow figure out, but you needed those boxes to be flat when they got shipped so that, if I sent you 1,000 of these in this shape, that would be huge. But if I
Yeah.
sent it flat and then all you had to do was one motion, because every time your manufacturer has to touch your product, it's a price point.
Yeah.
So we were trying to do things very streamlined, very beautiful, hit medical, hit recreational, not
Yeah.
piss off the environmentalists, not, be in line with the regulators. There's like so many things that you have to be in line with. And for us, because when I left Bang, we were in 7 states in Canada, we also wanted to have a package that I could easily enjoy the economy of scale. So we could make the package the same for New Mexico, for California, for Michigan,
Smart.
and then order all the packaging at once and let all of those licensees enjoy the 100,000 package price rather than the 5,000 MOQ that was going to cost them 3 times as much. And figuring that out was a huge challenge. We were able to do it with part of the packaging, but not all of it. Because, like, for example, this is the California warning label,
Yep.
different
Hmm.
warning label in Michigan. So they spell marijuana with an H in Michigan, and so all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what we did find is ordering blanks and keeping them in the U.S. and then using digital printing, which isn't as perfect as the plate printing that you can get done in China. But every time I had to make a change, I had to order new plates. So the digital printing was a win for us big
Yeah.
time. And so we were able to find some of those workarounds. And the packaging companies that we worked with were so helpful because they really knew what all of those things were. I just had to explain them what my challenges were and then let them talk to me about, well, we could try this or we could try that. And then, of course, my next question was always, well, how much is that going to cost? And
Yeah.
then we would just try to settle on maybe the happy medium where it's mostly good for the manufacturer, really good for the consumer. It might be a little more expensive. And then you figure out where can you cut corners, and it would be things like paperweight. So we
Yeah.
got to have these boxes be strong enough to carry all that chocolate, but not so, we didn't have to have full cardboard paperboard, which was much more expensive and heavier. So there were ways that we could save cost without compromising quality.
That's so good. Yeah, I think that there's a fallacy maybe of being able to do things on your own and thinking that you're going to get it right. More often than not, paying a little bit higher on the front end, working with experts in the field can actually save you a lot of money and give you that scalability. It means you can move faster. So if things do start moving and you start getting a lot of interest and get some really interesting meetings, you certainly have a scalable distribution run that you can scale up pretty quickly. Um, for people that are listening, there's these last couple of minutes that we have here, Jamie. I'd love to take a look at the future, get out the crystal ball, see what's happening over the next 5 to 10 years. For people that are listening, if they're sort of early founders, they've just got a product, maybe you've got it into the market, or you're in a bigger team and you're sort of looking at what's next for you guys. What would you have to say to those two different groups, Jamie, for the what's going to happen in the future?
I couldn't agree more with you. I think the right answer is you have to hire a packaging professional. And I think one of the things that's coming in the future, which I already started to see in response to COVID, is more packaging manufacturing facilities in the United States.
Hmm.
And then there's a woman that I absolutely adore. Her name's Kim Kovacs, and she's working with Paypax, which is a big German manufacturing company. But she's doing a project in the United States where they're actually buying up hemp farms and they're using hemp to make the paper for the packaging. Because one of the other issues is you can hire a professional company and they can help you with design and they can help you with all of those things. But then at the end of the day, how many trees are we killing, or, what are we
Hmm.
doing? And if we start looking at sustainable packaging, which, it takes 100 gallons of water to grow cotton, for one t-shirt, but it takes 1 gallon of water to make a hemp t-shirt. But
Yeah.
think about that hemp paper, which is there is no difference in quality. And in many cases, the machine that's tooled for wood pulp can take on hemp pulp and make the same type of quality. So they're really looking at the future and building something sustainable. And when they get that price point down to where you have the choice
Hmm.
between killing a tree or American grown hemp, that's a no-brainer.
No brainer.
And then American grown hemp leaches poison out of the soil and out of the air and out of the water. So you're not only doing something that's better for the environment, um, you're doubling down on that, and
Yeah.
it's more insulative, and you have all of those extra benefits to it. So I think the future is going to be more sustainable. And I also think it's going to be American made. I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah.
Um, but my advice to everybody is to find a packaging professional that's been there, done that, and can just easily help you answer your questions.
So good. And the industry is pretty well connected, and a good provider will ask you enough questions to find out if they're the right one to work with you. And if they're not, they're more interested in long-term relationships more often than not. At least, the Merchant Boxes team from the Unboxed show here, if they're not the right ones, they've got the network. They'll point you in the right direction, because they know that you're going to have a network and there might be future opportunities. So don't be shy. I don't think there's too many sharks out there. And that's it for this episode of Unboxed. Thank you so much, Jamie, for giving the time, the insights, and all the gold here for everybody. We're going to be chaptering out these questions. So if you wanted to share a specific section of this, you can do that very quickly and easily. And it'll be on all the usual platforms. So if you wanted to get one of those shorts or reels or snippets, you're going to be able to do that. Jamie, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, if they had some questions or just wanted to follow your journey, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can go to my website, which is www.new-holland.group. I'm jboogie.22 on Instagram, which if you want to see all the pictures of my kids, because that's really
Nice.
all I do there. And then I'm on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is really where I do most of my social media. But absolutely feel free to reach out to me anytime. I want to thank your listeners for listening to what I had to say, because my packaging journey was a huge part of my cannabis journey in the beginning, and I think that packaging is so critical to the way you tell your story. And I wanted to thank you for having me on.
100%. Well, hey, if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review wherever you're listening to this. It means a lot to us and all the algorithm robot overlords that control things. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, or if you'd like to be a guest, you can reach out on email at hello@merchantboxes.com. And until next time, keep thinking outside the box and creating unforgettable brand experiences. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode. It was sponsored by Merchant Boxes. Merchant Boxes provide custom packaging to large businesses and small creators that customers love. If you are looking for award-winning custom package designs that make your business and products stand out from the competition, click the link in the show notes to find out more.